Just a quick heads up that this video contains spoilers for about the first 80% of this game. Everything apart from the last two bosses, those are visual spoilers. If you don't want to see them, just listen to the audio. There's not any spoilers in that. Thank you. Nostalgia is a powerful thing. Powerful enough that I have many fond memories of playing Bubsy on Windows 95. Powerful enough that I remember thinking Heavy Rain was a masterpiece, but I have no memory of the terrible voice acting.
Jason! Jason!
But not powerful enough to convince me that everyone in my secondary school weren't huge turds. I never played Metroid Prime when I was growing up. I have no fond memories of morph balling around Talon 4, drinking Sunny D, wearing a belly shirt, while All the Things She Said by Tattoo played on the radio, like many of you no doubt will. I went into Metroid Prime Remastered without one very important visor equipped, the Nostalgia Visor, and although it is a good game, sometimes even a great game, it has issues. Before I start listing this game's faults, let me just say Metroid Prime has an incredible atmosphere. From the opening on the space station, all the way through the different biomes, Samus is alone. No voice in her ear, no audio logs, no true crime podcast, just her and the soundtrack, which is up there with some of Nintendo's best. Little touches, like when large amounts of light fill the screen and you can see Samus's reflection against her visor, or rain landing and then sliding off Samus's arm cannon, really help sell the experience. It also looks great. Long abandoned alien structures mixed with alien fauna and strange creatures populate each biome. It truly feels like another world. As we get into the criticism, I feel like we need to define what a remaster is. I personally expect a remaster of a game to recapture the feeling of playing the original. This is done by improving the graphics and adding quality of life improvements that modern gamers expect. A game that did a great job of a graphical remaster was Shadow of the Colossus on the PlayStation 3. It brought the game to widescreen and gave an already beautiful game the boost to 1080p. And yes, I know they remade it completely for the PS4, but that's a remake, so it doesn't count for this discussion. God, Mum, you don't know anything. Leave me alone. I don't even like your new boyfriend. A remaster that did a great job of improving gameplay would be Majora's Mask 3D. Majora was a masterpiece for its time, but the remaster improved many of its more archaic systems. This included the addition of more save points, allowing for more items to be mapped to the buttons, as well as the Song of Double Time allowing you to tweak how much time to skip. Improvements greatly appreciated when playing the game again over 10 years later. Metroid Prime nails the first part of a remaster. It looks really good. I went online and took a look at what the original Metroid Prime looked like. Wow. I'm sure it looked good at the time, but so did those oysters that gave me food poisoning last year. Where Metroid Prime falls greatly short in the remastered department is the inclusion of quality of life improvements. This is what stops the game from being great. I can think of a number of small changes that would have made the gameplay experience much more pleasurable. To begin with, you should be able to mark your map with different icons, so you know places you need to return to later, or want to return to later to pick up a new upgrade. A tiny, very easy to add feature, and it would have improved the gameplay experience immensely. Another welcome change this game needs is the addition of fast travel. Yes, I know this game is all about exploring, going through different zones multiple times, using new power-ups to collect even newer power-ups, collecting so many rockets that North Korea comes knocking, but when you reach the final collectathon, the game felt like my last relationship. I just wanted it over as quick as possible, and I wanted to get my Switch back without the screen smashed. And I know what people will say, fast travel will ruin the experience. No, it wouldn't, because guess what? You don't have to use it. There's stairs at my work. Some people choose to use them. I choose to take the lift while I stuff my mouth with Smarties and calculate the path to my desk with the least amount of steps. There's a choice. How about we meet in the middle and just add the ability to fast travel back to your ship? Or maybe, if you're feeling nice, the entrance to each biome. This would be a great addition to the game. Now we need to talk about doors. Oh, please can we talk about the doors? Progression in Metroid Prime is gated in a number of ways, but the main way it does it is with different coloured doors. Blue doors can be opened by your starting weapon and any weapon after that. Purple doors can be opened by the wave beam, white by the ice beam, red by the plasma beam. You'll be going through areas over and over again, and every single time you need to use the right coloured gun. Every single time. Even if you've been to the location 20 times before. Even if the game is forcing me to use the thermal visor so I can't see what colour the door is and I'm being chased by enemies while on my last sliver of health. Once I've proved to the door that I have the right gun once, Just let me open it with any shot. This is another tiny improvement that would have reduced frustration massively. Our next problems that need solving are enemy respawning frequency and confusing corridors. Many of the rooms you enter in Metroid Prime are incredibly memorable and unique. What is not unique and memorable are the corridors that connect them. Multiple times I would enter a room, spend ages defeating the enemies, then exit the room to a corridor and think, "Gah! I got turned round! I'm back where I started!" I'd head back into the main room, go through the other door, walk through the corridors, realise I had not in fact gone the wrong way the first time, and I had now actually just backtracked. Then I make my way back to the first room where the enemies had respawned. This issue isn't so bad when exploring a new area, but when backtracking, the whole map is coloured in orange, and it's harder to get your bearings. Making these corridors more unique, or better yet, making it so enemies don't respawn till you save your game at a save point would help alleviate this issue. Don't tell anyone, but I have a theory that the developers of Metroid Prime realised that their combat system wasn't exactly the strongest part of the game. Alright, I said the C word, let's get into it. This game's biggest issue is by far combat, and I'm not sure a few small tweaks can fix it. When the game first started and I started picking up health upgrades, I was shocked by how many slots the game has for health. "There's no way I'll need this much health," said naive, rosy-cheeked me as I frolicked through the waterfalls of Talon 4, blissfully unaware of how frustrating the combat in Metroid is. As I mentioned earlier, I think the original creators of Metroid Prime must have realised this, and used health bars as a way to offset the issue. Offsetting is alright, but what's better is not having the issue at all. It starts off fine with little creatures, then it's okay with your first space pirates, but then you start fighting the pirates that need a specific visor to see. There's a section of the game where the lights turn off and you must use a thermal visor to navigate and fight enemies, but this novelty soon becomes akin to spending a night at a club where they only play the Crazy Frog song. Disorientating, repetitive, and rage-inducing. On paper, the idea of different visors for different situations is good, and if this section was one and done, and the lights turned on again after it was finished, fine. But every time you backtrack through the area, you have to fight enemies with your thermal visor again. The game looks great. Forcing you to play the game with a weird purple Instagram filter for extended periods of time is a weird flex. I go as far as saying that when it comes to exploration, the visors work. They are a good idea. X-ray visor to see false walls, scan visor to activate switches. The issue becomes apparent when you start having to use the visors in combat along with the weapons. Countless times I was trying to switch to my plasma blaster and instead turned on my X-ray vision and saw the enemy in their pants, which only seemed to excite them more as they danced away, decimating my health bars. This issue is made so much worse by the pirate enemy type that needs to be hit by a certain gun. One type must be hit by the regular blaster, one with plasma, one with ice, and one with your wave beam. They often spawn in with different colours, and trying to get them with the right weapon while you accidentally switch to thermal vision and your health bar melts like a mini milk on a metal bench in Qatar in the middle of the summer is never once fun. A new control scheme has been provided for the Switch, which is meant to improve the issue, but let me assure you, it is still there. Even with the new control scheme, I have to press one button down, then another to switch guns, and if I fail to press a button down properly, I'm going to be scanning, or using the X-ray vision, or my thermal vision, and I'm not going to have the right gun equipped, and I'm not going to be able to see what colours the enemies are anymore. For my second playthrough, I tried some of the alternative control schemes, and they are even worse. The default model control scheme has its issues, but Joy-Con motion controls ain't it. Remember how I said Metroid Prime Remastered looks great? The bosses look great too. They look so good that the game wants you to get so close to them you can't see anything else. One particular late game boss was so big that looking onto him took about 80% of the screen. He was so tenacious in following me that I spent the whole boss encounter getting hit by his melee attack and having my body melted in acid that surrounded the area because I had the audacity to move backwards and try and see what I was fighting. I'm not sure how to fix these combat issues. Possibly allowing for cycling of visors and guns rather than having to hold a button and press a direction. Perhaps a weapon wheel that slows down time when activated for you to select the weapon you want. Again, I believe the game designers knew that combat was frustrating and they took measures to fix it. The last gun you get in the game, the plasma gun, has the ability to melt through most enemies, but it does not work on the aforementioned pirates. They need to be hit with a specific gun, so you're still dancing your weapons and accidentally skipping to thermal vision just as you were before. There are a few enemy types in this game that just baffle me. One is a drone. It's first encountered in the pitch dark. You can't see anything anyway. Your thermal visor is broken by this enemy, and it just happily shoots you while you just wildly shoot back and pray to hit it. This section just serves to shave off one of your health bars. Speaking of enemies that disrupt your vision, It's dark and confusing enough underwater already, especially before we get the underwater movement upgrade, so how about not having another enemy that can take your vision away down there? While on the topic of underwater, there was one particular point in the game where it funneled me into an underwater area. Before getting an upgrade, moving underwater is slow, and it's hard to platform properly. You get the ice beam, you leave the arena, there's a door, and behind that door is a space with an ice beam door on it. Of course I'm going to use it. The game lured me into this underwater area, and I happily jumped down a huge tube and received an upgrade to my health. Great! Seriously, great. Those health upgrades are always good. Then I was told to come back again when I had a new upgrade to my suit. The game then proceeded to laugh as I failed to platform back up to dry land, as before you get the aforementioned upgrade, Samus moves like she's underwater in a huge metal suit, which, to be fair to her, she is, but it doesn't make for very fun platforming. Many of these issues I've listed seem small, but they start to stack and stack, combining in incredibly frustrating ways that had me very close to putting down the controller and trading in Metroid Prime for a copy of Bubsy 3D to relive the old times. At one point, I climbed to the top of a structure in a particularly long platforming section, and as I made the final jump, I was treated to a cutscene. Once it finished, Samus had found the cutscene so interesting that she lost all momentum and fell to the ground like she was Wile E. Coyote chasing after Space Roadrunner. Fatigue was setting in as I got the last suit upgrade, and the game cheerily announced that I needed to go and collect a bunch of artifacts to get to the end. How about needing just half of these game? People are still free to collect them all. The backtracking section is also when the game decides that it would be a great idea to spawn more annoying enemies in every room. Enemies like Metroids that will latch onto you and knock you off platforms. Enemies like the pirates that you will need to change your gun to hit, who knock you off platforms. Enemies like the Chozo ghosts, who fly around and make you use X-ray vision to fight them, and then you fall off the platform as you do that. Sometimes you can avoid fighting the enemies, but a lot of the time attempting to do so gets you knocked off a platform, and you've lost a few minutes of progression as you jump back up. I can see the appeal of Metroid Prime, I really can, and I can recommend it as a piece of gaming history. When it first came out, I'm sure it was great, and this remaster had the chance to make the game great for a modern audience, but with the issues in the year 2024, it's only good.